name is Pat Fader, and I want to run through how to use our pre-configured virtual machines for ITnet 112. So let's just get started with it. The first thing is, let's jump to the syllabus. Typically, in our ITnet 112 and 111 classes, one of the first activities is this Lab 0, which is nothing more than how to get our virtual machines and just how to work with them real briefly. So I thought I could kind of start there, talk about how I got my VMs, what it would look like when you get them from one of our academic support centers, if you go that route, and we'll kind of see where it ends up. So if you're an ITnet 112 or 111, odds are you're doing Lab 0. In my case, I call it Assignment 2, and that would look like this right here. It starts off just saying there's 3 virtual machines that we're going to use for ITnet 112, and it does say, let's just see here. Where did it go? Here we go. I guess I was going too fast. But basically, in order to do the lab, you're going to need to get our virtual machines, and I have a document put together that kind of tells you how to get our VMs. You have a couple choices with that. You can either stop by one of our IT classrooms, stop by my lab, or an academic support center, and just copy the VMs right off the hard drive. So what that would look like, let's see here. If you stop by one of our labs or classrooms, odds are on a D drive. On the D drive on a IT classroom, you're going to find a lab files folder, and in that you're going to find an ITnet 112 folder, and you'll find 4 subfolders. Just copy them all. Basically, if we took a real quick look, the ISOs folder has the ISO for Server 2016, so you can make your own VM if you want to. Server 1 and 2 are just 2 Server 2016 virtual machines, and then the W10 client, you guessed it, it's a Windows 10 VM. So, approximate size, each one, golly, 30 gigabytes. I've been using this one for a bit. Typically, if your VM gets really big, what you want to do is just snapshot it back to one of your previous to a snapshot, and that'll kind of take care of the size issue. 10 gigabytes, so we're at 39 gigabytes so far, and 10. So at about 40 gigabytes. So currently these VMs are at 40 gigabytes in size. We'll look at how to launch them in a second. Also in that Lab 0 assignment, or in the obtain the VM document here, if you don't stop by one of our a classroom or an academic support center, you can download them. And for ITnet 112, basically when you download it, you're going to be directed to go to a Google Drive. I guess I could try opening this thing up here. Yeah, and in there you're going to find 4 zip files. They're all about 8, 8, 8, and 3, so it's 27 gigabytes. Essentially, once you get all 4, and assuming that they have not been corrupted during the download process, you'll have something that looks like my D drive here. You'll have the 4 files. I think it took me, on campus, it took me about an hour to download these 4 files. Doing it from home would probably take a lot longer than that. But once you have all 4, and assuming they haven't been corrupted, you just double click the first one, and oh, by the way, I installed 7-zip because I know that works with these zip files, and it essentially unzips the 4 and creates this folder structure here, which looks identical to what you'd find in one of our academic support centers or in one of our classrooms. So at this point, you've looked at the obtaining the virtual machine document, and you found some way to get the VMs. I think they start off, I guess we're saying around 30 or 40 gigabytes. The download is 27 gigabytes, we said. So at this point, you've got the virtual machines, and we can just take a look quickly, like kind of what these VM folders look like. So each of our virtual machines, essentially each folder is a virtual machine, and in it you're going to find a virtual machine configuration file. It's kind of got these like 3 pieces of paper out front. If you just double click that, that'll launch the virtual machine in VMware Workstation. And then the larger files are essentially just hard drives or snapshots based off the hard drive. So you can tell these folders get pretty large pretty quickly. So 3 folders, 3 VMs, and this one folder has our ISOs in it with Windows 10 and server. Good enough. if you go to an academic support center, if you're downloading them, you might just want to grab our ITnet 110 VMs as well. That'll just give you a couple Windows 10 client machines if you want. So if we go back to my D drive, F drive, I didn't say D drive, ITnet images, ITnet 110, you could grab these as well. So anyways, at this point in the screencast, you have figured out how to get a copy of your VMs. Now we're going to talk about using them. So I had to, for this demonstration, I actually had to update my version of VMware Workstation. So right now I am at version 14. I was at version 12 and I could not run the servers which were created with version 14 of Workstation. So just a heads up, you may want to update your home system's VMware Workstation to the latest edition. When it comes to actually launching the VMs, you have a couple ways of doing it. You can do the old file open, and we can go just server 1. Again, you're selecting the virtual machine configuration file. Open that one up. Loads up. Or another way of doing it is you just open up the virtual machine folder and just double click the configuration file. Same thing. Nothing too exciting. Alright. So I have my 3 virtual machines now ready to go. And I just had a student ask me, well, here, let's take a look. I won't get ahead of myself yet, but on the left side here we see there's different settings there's different configurations we can make for our virtual machines. If I look at my desktop system that I'm working on right now, I have 32 gigabytes of RAM to work with, so that's a fair amount of RAM. I might decide, you know what, I can give this VM 8 gigabytes of RAM. Still leaves plenty for the host. Yeah, we see other things too, like how our network adapter is configured. Host only means private network. And that's pretty much all I really need off of this. Sometimes you might look at the CD, DVD, ROM setting, and you might want to, on occasion, take the VM's ROM drive and map an ISO to it. But we can probably talk about that later. So before I fire my VM up, I want to see what normally you want to set your snapshot. So if I look at my snapshot manager right now, this is actually a good example. I had a student just ask me. He downloaded the VMs. He fired it up. He was all excited. The first time you start it up, you always answer, I moved it. Okay. He was all excited to work with Server 2016. And then all of a sudden he gets this blue screen. It's basically what we're getting there. Which basically is going to imply that we cannot find an operating system. I might just pause this, wait for it to air out. Alright, it took a few minutes. But anyways, you get this blue screen, and he was just saying it doesn't work. And I'm like, what the heck happened? How did you break my VM? And then I remembered the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out what snapshot you want to set your VM to. So if we go back to our snapshot manager, this VM did what it was supposed to do. It basically booted up as if there was no operating system installed. So we created a virtual machine, we took a snapshot. And then we did an install. Then we took another snapshot. Then we did some Active Directory stuff, took another snapshot, and so on. See, basically these snapshots are just points in time, where our virtual machine was, that captures our virtual machine configuration. So a lot of times I'll just work at this OUs created, which essentially means that Active Directory has been installed and we've created some OUs and then we took a snapshot. So from this point right here, let me just go there. I got it. And we do have a nice description down here too of kind of what we did. But let me just hit go to there. Are you sure? Yes. This is interesting. So the snapshot not only includes the state of the hard drive, it also resets all these settings on the left side here. So if I want to go back and use more memory, I have to go back and reset my my memory setting. Okay, good. So I have 8 gigabytes of RAM. I'm at OUs created. I'm going to turn it on. And if I decide that I want to use some other virtual machines, odds are I'm going to want to move those to the exact same snapshot. OUs created. Yep. And snapshot. OUs created. Okay. I could go back. So you can tell our client doesn't have as many snapshots associated with it. Basically, we did a clean install, and then after the clean install, we changed the IP settings and joined it to our domain controller, and then took another snapshot. So moral of the story is, before you start using your VMs, figure out what snapshot you want to work from. So I got a couple things I want to show you real quick. So this machine here, server 1, it's still booting. Domain controllers take a while to boot up. So while that's starting up, let's just take a look at some of the labs that you're going to do, and which will show you what snapshots to use. So I'm going to go back to my syllabus, my 8 million tabs that are open, and throughout the semester you're going to be doing labs in my ITnet 112 class, if that's what you're watching with right now. So heck, I'll pick the first one, lab 1. I think I have it open actually. We'll go to it. Okay. So lab 1, it starts off by saying, take your virtual machines. Well, you're going to need an ISO. We've got one of those. And you're going to use 2 VMs, and the snapshot is no OS. Okay, we kind of saw what that looked like, right? So if I were going to do this lab, I'll just do it on server 2 real quick. VM snapshot manager, no OS. I do that, and we know what's going to happen if you boot it up with no OS. You get that blue screen. So we're going to jump ahead, and we know that if you have a computer with no OS installed, you're going to want to connect the ROM drive to it. So we're going to use one of our ISOs. Use ISO image, browse, ITnet 112, the ISOs folder, and we'll use our server ISO. Okay, so basically I've just put the server 2016 DVD into my virtual machine's DVD ROM drive, and it says connect the power on. I want to make sure this checkbox is hit, and I think we're good to go. Obviously, if I had a physical ROM, I would select this, but I have an ISO, so I'm going to use this. And now when I turn it on, it should be like, I moved it. I'm going to click in here, so I've kind of just clicked my mouse in that screen. Press any key to boot from the ROM drive. Okay, we're booting off the ISO, and we are now going to start going through a server 2016 install. Okay, good enough. If your mouse kind of gets stuck in your virtual machine's window, Control-Alt will free it. And I'm not going to wait for this thing to do the install. So let's just go back to OU's created. Yep. All gone. Alright, so anyways, we're looking at my syllabus, and we saw that the labs tell you what snapshot to move your VMs to. If I pick a different lab, 3.1 Hyper-V, installing Hyper-V. So I'm going to take it to snapshot Hyper-V ready. So we go back to VMware Workstation. Server 2 is fine. Let's see, Snapshot Manager. I would take it to Hyper-V ready. Hit Go To, or if I want to if I don't want to wait around and install the Hyper-V role, I could just go to Hyper-V installed, and it's already installed. But we'll go Hyper-V ready. We'd fire it up. Could change my RAM again if I wanted to. I'm fine with this. We'd fire it up. And then we would just run through the lab, follow the steps to install Hyper-V. Looks like we're tweaking some virtual machine settings in VMware Workstation before we even turn it on. And all kinds of clicking and stuff going on here. But eventually we're going to add a role and feature, or add roles and features, and we're going to install Hyper-V. So anyways, we've gone real quickly just over how to get the VMs, how to use the snapshots associated with the VMs, and we have looked at a couple labs, and we've noticed that the labs do tell us exactly what snapshots to move our VMs to. So I think we have one more just semi-related topic to all of this. Let's go back to my server 1. Okay, this guy is up and running. I'll just show you a trick real quick. Control-Alt-Delete to unlock. I can't use my host computer's Control-Alt-Delete. I have to send it either this way, send Control-Delete, or send it this way, send Control-Delete. Or I think I had a student just say that Control-Alt-Insert works also. So I'm going to click my mouse left button just to kind of get my cursor in the virtual machine, Control-Alt-Insert, and that works too. Our passwords, we're not very creative at MATC here, are typically password 01 with a capital P. So now my virtual machine is starting up, and I'll show you one trick and then we'll call it a day. I guess you really can't see my whole screen here. There, we'll get it all in there. Alright. Oh, second trick. Sometimes if your VM's desktop is bigger than the window that you're displaying it in, like in this case, you know, like my VMware workstation window is this big, but my VM desktop is a little bit larger. If you get tired of having to scroll around to find the start tile or whatever, we can just do the old view fit guess now. So now it resizes the VM to the whatever window size our VMware workstation is giving it. So what I wanted to show you, let's see here. Yeah, I should use like the test connection PowerShell, but I'm going to just revert back to ping. I want to ping one of Google. Let's say I decide I want to ping one of Google's DNS servers. It's not going to work. Why? Because if I look at these virtual machine settings here, my network adapter is set to host only, which basically means my network is on a private network with no internet access. There are occasions where you want to give a VM internet access. So you have a couple options. Either A, you could take the one network adapter you have and you know, you can set it to NAT or bridged. So bridged would be tied directly to your home network or school network, or NAT, you know, NAT basically a network address translation. You're gonna kind of put a virtual router in between your VM and your home network, and that virtual router will take care of handing out IP addresses and stuff. That's kind of the easiest to work with. But there are times that you don't want to mess with your virtual machine's IP settings. And here's the easiest way of doing it, giving a VM access. You just simply add a second network card. Add network adapter, finish. So now I have two network adapters. The second one is set up for NAT. Could it be any easier? Nope. It is. That's as easy. This is how hard it is. So I added a second network adapter. If on a Windows machine, it just adds it. On a Mac, you typically have to have the VM turned off in order to do this. If I look at the IP settings, I now have two network adapters: Ethernet 0, Ethernet 1. Ethernet 0 is the one that is statically configured. Ethernet 1 is assigned via DHCP. And this is our network adapter that's on NAT. So now you can tell I have a default gateway. Let's just jump to the exciting stuff. Can I ping this now? Amazing. So my VM now has internet access. You know, DNS is set up also. There we go. So that is the trick for giving a VM internet access. We've already talked about the RAM settings. We've already talked about that all these great settings. The second that you take it back to a different snapshot, you're going to lose all your settings. So now I have 4 gigabytes of RAM and only one network adapter, not two, but that's what snapshots are intended to do for you. And I think that is it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you learn a lot and benefit from using our pre-configured virtual machines. I think they're a really fantastic resource. And if you're in my server class, basically what you're responsible for is all the labs that I have in our syllabus here. You should have, as part of at the start of the course, made a copy of our lab screenshot document. Essentially, these all link to the labs as well. So you're going to do lab 0. You click on the link. It opens it up. And then partway through, I have just tell you a couple points along the way to take a screenshot, basically showing you that you can ping. So what you would do at that point would be, you go up to step 10, and you take your virtual machine, assuming that I have one that was pinging, which I don't anymore, but I would take my VM. Imagine now that this is pinging, you know, that we pinged, and you'd use like maybe the snipping tool or Snagit or some tool to the snipping tool just to grab a screenshot. There it is. That's our imaginary ping. Copy it, and this works pretty well in Chrome as far as the copying and pasting goes. You jump back to your lab screenshot document, wherever that may be, and just paste it. Amazing. There you go. So that's kind of what you're going to do all semester. You're going to work through all of our labs and just keep putting screenshots in there. I don't really pay a lot of attention to your actual screenshots. I mean, I'm not looking for things wrong. I'm just looking to see that you've done the activity. And my thought is that if you're having problems with it, you're going to contact me. But this is basically a way for you to show me that you've done the lab activities. And hopefully, obviously the idea behind these lab activities they're just reinforcing and giving you more hands-on exposure to Server 2016 and Active Directory and things that are associated with that. So thanks again for looking. Thanks again for watching. You tell it's late. I've been here way too long. Have a great day.